because my co-founder and partner in crime for this live is busy, not and a bit sick, so I took over the broadcast. And so today, for the next hour, we're going to be talking a lot about the topic at hand, that is how to build a country. But in particular, today, we're going to jump straight into the topic of how to build a nation. And for this particular topic, I studied for this week one of the most important aspect, I think, of how you can actually create a country. There is the history of nation building, the history of nations. So today, this is the big topic that we're going to tackle. But before jumping into it, let me give you a preview of what we're doing, why we're here, and what we're trying to accomplish together. And at any time, please chat, comment, let me know if you can see me well. My connection can be a bit bumpy today, I don't know why. So I'm waiting for your feedback anytime. So in terms of what we're doing here and why I'm doing this live, I'm the founder and co-founder of Atlas, the global movement working to unite humanity from all over the planet. We are a global movement that we started 2 years ago. We count more than 22,000 people in our ranks, and we have worked a lot on many different topics, from climate change to women's rights to democracy. We really have worked on trying to go beyond differences and try to create standards of living that are equal, that are higher for everyone across the planet. And after 2 years of works, we said, well, I mean, this is a very good start. But if we were to tackle all the issues on this planet one by one, we'll never be done. Why? Because obviously every day, every month, every year, there are new issues coming up, new problems, inequalities are rising, nationalism is back, climate change, COVID. Basically, the world is not easy and it's never been easy. And so we said maybe what we need actually is not to tackle each topic one by one. There are already people doing wonderful things on each of these fronts and try to fight back. But what we need is a system change. And we need a system change before it's too late. And so we really work hard together with our volunteers to imagine what could be these system changes, new way of approaching the world, people across the planet, to bring them together and really find a solution to the fact that if we continue working as we're doing, if we continue living as we're doing, if we continue being a lot of people separated by skin color, religion borders, or whatever, humanity as it is really risking doomsday or worse. So we came together, we thought, and the solution we came with, we came up with, is the one of creating a global governance, a democratic global governance. So basically a place where everyone, me, you, whoever you can think of, can come together and vote, express their opinion, cooperate with other citizens across the planet to find a solution to the biggest challenges of our time, to elect representatives that represent humanity as a whole and non nations, and basically start tackling together the biggest issues of our time. So this is the dream, this is the project that we are putting together. This is what we want to achieve. And we basically started this with this idea a few weeks back. And while doing that, while imagining this future and this potential great project, we understood that the best way to make this happen is to actually document this trip, share with people interested what we're doing, and trying together to build this project. And so this is why today I'm here doing this live. It's one of the first time we're doing, but I hope it's going to become a tradition, a long-standing broadcast that will gather many people around the planet that believe that it doesn't matter which skin color we have, it doesn't matter which religion we follow, it doesn't matter which accent we have. As you can hear, I have a strong Italian accent. It doesn't matter which creed we belong to. But at the end of the day, the best option for humankind to evolve, to improve, for our problems to be solved, is the one of working together, of cooperating, of unlocking a new utopia that is impossible until we don't move beyond border. So this is what we are trying to do, and this is why today I'm speaking to you. And to tell you a bit more about the broadcast that we're building, the idea is every week to have a different kind of topic or content to explore together. And last week we tried we presented kind of the idea, and this week we're starting actually the real content production. And the topic that we're chosen for this week, we're still in season 0 for 2022, so we're still early days, but we started refining a bit the calendar of topics, and we understood that if we really want to create something new, if we really want to create a global country, a global governance, a global democracy, we need to understand how democracies and countries came about in the first place. We need to understand, at least in the eye of nation states, we need to understand our enemies, as we like to say. And so, with this spirit in mind, today I want to introduce the topic that we're going to cover with 3 lives in the next 3 days, and then with a longer pieces of show on Thursday. We want to discuss the history of nations. So, how did nations come about? I'm not an expert, I'm not an historian, but I digged a bit into it in the last few hours to begin a conversation and to begin sharing with you ideas of what we can do, obviously, to build one ourselves. So, nations states are kind of a modern concept. So, obviously, human beings have been hunter gatherers for hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years. And then with agriculture, we started settling in tribes and so on and so forth. I don't need to go through the whole human development history. But what is really interesting is how around medieval times, we started seeing, especially in Europe, but I guess also elsewhere on the planet, but the news I've seen online are the information I read online are mostly referring to Europe. We started seeing settlement and structures they strongly reminded us of nation states. So either kingdom or communities or governance systems where people that were part of these units felt a shared sense of identity, some traits that some commonalities that brought them together. They understood that they were binded by something that was different that what other people had. So the sense that the state could exist is rooted in this first experiment that existed in medieval Europe. Because before that, we obviously have empires, city-states, and many experiments, and many other human structures. But the idea, for example, the Roman Empire was not based on ethnicity or religion. It was a completely multicultural, heterogeneous, also from an administrative point of view, ensemble of people. Um, and only in the medieval times we started seeing actually enclave of people organized along ethnic lines or a political system, and this kind of factor that started originating the idea of a state. Early examples are, for example, the great Bulgarian state that I think dates from 16 after Christ. They started creating a sense of Slavic identity and differentiating itself from its neighbors in the south. They were sometimes more linked to Muslim culture, and so on and so forth, as well as other experiments in England, in France. So we could start seeing this happen. But interesting enough, the word nation was not used these times. Nation actually was used the first time in the university context. So in 1300, for example, the University of Paris started gathering, grouping students and teachers under the label of nation or natio in Latin. The same happened in a few other universities. So we could see that the terminology of group community was starting to being created. It was created in university for some reason. According to several historians, the real first modern nation is dated back, is actually the Kingdom of England around 1600. The British Kingdom and actually became a parliamentary kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. We started having houses of lords and so on. Started structuring itself as a kingdom of citizens shared with a shared identity, belonging to a nation, belonging to a flag, belonging to a political structure, with a common religion. So, for many historians, the first nation of modern history, the first real nation, is the nation of the United Kingdom, Great Britain. Since then, states spread all over the planet. So the concept of nation states was particularly strong in Western culture in Europe, and then because of the great wealth and technological advancements that Europe experienced during the Industrial Revolution, um, this concept was exported across the planet through the very um, horrible and sad chapter of history called colonialism. So the idea of nation states spread across the planet when basically European colonialism began, and nation states or prolongment of nation states were created across the planet. And since then, nation states never left our history, never left our humanity. So nowadays we have 193 nation states, I think, recognized by the United Nations, probably more that wish to be recognized. And so the humanity is quite fragmented, and all the nation states are either ethnic or religion or civic nation states. What does it mean? Ethnic means that these nation states are built around a common culture. For example, a common culture, common traits. For example, Russia might feel that the Russian people are more than just a group of people abiding to a constitution, but actually they're a group of people defined by certain traits, even if this is highly disputable. But this is how some states define themselves. Then there are nations, they are religious nations. So, for example, Muslim Republic or Christian states. So there's another trait that bring people together under a common framework, common infrastructure, and this religion. And last but not least, there is the multicultural or civic state, nation state. This is the one that many modern nations have adopted, the one where there is a common document, a founding document that binds people across norms and rules and values that are shared. Normally, this document is called Constitution. And then, based on the Constitution, a whole infrastructure of nation states is created. So humans have used this concept of nation states for many years to kind of create a common ground, to pull together resources for defense, for many reasons. And let's say it has worked. I mean, it has also caused massive atrocities and terrible experience. But when technology limited movement of people, communication, and other ways to connect with other people across the planet, nation states serve a purpose. It enable people to come together to build things bigger than themselves, to explore farther, to, as I said before, pull resources together. So nation states had a purpose, a role, a motive to exist for a certain moment of history. But in the last few decades, the same concept of nation states started crumbling. And despite the fact that nation states are still grappling with power and trying to be as relevant as possible in today's world, we must say that their role is really outdated. Let me develop on this. We now can travel the planet very easily. We can pool resources together. We can communicate in English, for example, with many people across the planet or in other languages. We can use social media to interact and see what's going on the other side of the planet. But still, our identity, our capabilities, our ideas also are often really connected to a territory where we're born at the beginning of when we're born, where that we did not choose, and that imposes on us many rules and norms. And this is simply wrong because with $50, I now can change state. I can fly somewhere else and set up a life elsewhere. But still, people feel their identity very connected to a flag, to a political system, and so on. And this is causing massive disruptions across the planet. Let's think about climate change. Perfect example. Now there's COP26, COP27 ongoing in Sharm el Sheikh, in Egypt. COP26 is the conference of the parties, so countries over the planet are coming together to try to solve climate change under the United Nations framework. And sadly enough, a lot of these efforts are not meaningless, but really falling short. Why? Because national interest is still dominating the political landscape of this planet, the consciousness of many of our leaders. And as such, resources, policies, and action are always framed around national interest, nation first. And this doesn't work when we need to tackle global challenges. It doesn't work when we want to bring humanity beyond the classic clash of clans where people bind together, people that look like them, believe like them, and fight people that don't look like them or don't believe the same things that they do. But in an era where climate change might wipe out the life on this planet in the matter of 100 or 200 years, where because of nuclear weapons and because of nuclear wars, we might be annihilated in just a few days if things go very wrong. In an era where technology is running so ahead of us that nation states, national regulator cannot even anymore regulate or tame technology because it's so far ahead, it's so transnational, we are so interconnected that no single country has the power to, for example, sanction or regulate social media. It's clear that nation states are completely outdated and not fit for purpose. And this era of ours, is very important that we manage to move beyond. And Colombe, my co-founder, and I have tried already. We have set up a political party 5 years ago, a transnational political party across Europe, where we grew up and where we're from, to try to bind together the people of Europe. And we were inexperienced. Europe is a very fragmented, as you know, continent. And still, we managed to build Volt. They're still up and running. It's still a present political party in the European Parliament. So we managed to create something beyond borders. And now we are basically thinking, okay, why not trying across the planet? Why not trying to build a platform for citizens across the planet? But not a political party, because sadly enough, the political systems are super slow to react. And actually, today, nowadays, it's very difficult to change things through politics in democracies because our democracies are highly imperfect, and obviously in autocracies, authoritarian countries, let's not even speak about. So we need to find a system to bring people together fast and to show the planet, to show the world that we can do better, that we can actually look beyond differences. It doesn't matter where you're from, what your passport says, which skin color, skin tone you have, how you look, how you speak, where you live. It doesn't matter. If you share values, if you think that together we can actually bring humanity forward, we can do so much more for our common humanity, for the future generation, there must be a way to come together. And this is why we're trying to be a global nation. And looking at the experiment, looking at what happened in history, is not impossible at all. I gave you a very quick preview of how nations came about and how nation states were created. But truth to be told, many nation states came out of nowhere. People assembled and fought for their rights, and sometimes they were successful. They created states. Sometimes they were unsuccessful. Think about the creation of the United States. It's a struggle of a completely unlikely win of a few settlers against the great superpower of the time, and still this is possible. Countries, nations have been created by people in other ages, and what we need today is the ability, the power to create something that goes beyond borders, something that goes beyond our differences. And this is why, as I said before, we are really, really working hard to create this platform. We're really, really working hard to run these lives and bring people together and run consultation across the planet. And I'm going to tell you in a second about that, to build the nation that we want to see, to build a global nation, to build a global country, to build a global federation. We can call it as we want, but basically a place where it doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to be in a specific place on this planet to belong to this country, to belong to this nation, and to benefit from the services, the protection, the support that such a nation can give to you. So drinking a bit because today I'm alone, so it's an hour of speaking on my own. So let's recap. We are here because we believe that nations, states are to be not destroyed by history, but we need to find a new system to come together as humans, to work together, and to untame all the amazing possibilities and ideas and capacities that we have. And to do so, we need to have a global platform. We need to have a place for humans to come together that today does not exist. And to achieve this beautiful view and this beautiful vision, we must understand how nations are built. And so this week, we are exploring the history of nations. So we are trying to understand how nations in the past have been built, to learn from their mistakes, but also the things they have done well, and hence then move on and do it ourselves. So this is the dream that we have. And we're going to have live tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And we're going to then try to go on Thursday to produce a full episode about the history of nations and what can we learn and how we can build our own new platform, completely innovative, completely democratic, completely inclusive for citizens, to untame many more possibilities for humanity to come. And so, going back to the history of nations and what I said in the first part of this live, nation states came about in the medieval age, medieval times. They were the first idea of a nation state, and then there was a period of in between when feudalism and medieval kingdoms still exist, and then around 1600 the first real nation states were created. For example, as I said before, Great Britain, England is one of the first nation states internationally recognized as beyond the feudal period and actually fully as a nation state. And since then, many more were created. We now have 193 recognized nation states on this planet, more than want to become. Sadly, some are under attack from others. So there's still an evolving situation in terms of nation states. But no one is thinking about how to move forward, how to really, really unleash the power of nation states, how to really, really unleash the power of humanity coming together beyond differences. And if you think about nation states, do not exist. Nation states are just a construct, are an idea of many humans that convince each other that this is the best way to behave, to organize ourselves, and to live together, which it could make sense. But the problem that this brings, the problem of having nation states or enclave of people, is that this cause conflict and competition and negative competition and death when nation states conflict with each other. So what we are seeing in Russia and Ukraine is, if you think about it, completely nonsense. These are two territories that are contiguous, where people actually share a lot of belief, a lot of traits. They are both similarly wealthy. There is not any peculiar reason for these two countries to clash, and actually for Russia to invade Ukraine. But because of a sense of nationalism, of imperialism, this has happened. And this has happened now for many months. And obviously, Ukraine and Russia is just one example of um, invasion and conflict between nation states. But if the concept of nation states was to disappear, if the idea that coming together across the planet was natural, we could achieve incredible things. We could see peace on this planet. We could see incredible technological development. We could see problems like climate change being stopped and tamed. We could see the world completely changing the way it functions. And I'm not saying that suddenly humans will become, wonderful people, all friendly with each other, but exactly as within current nations, problems are solved, support is given to everyone, fiscal and financial transfers are granted, protection is ensured, and more or less, with a lot of flaws, nations try to treat all their citizens as one, at least the one that they are democratic and inclusive. If we were to translate this concept to a global level, could you imagine how much we could do? Could you imagine how different the world would look? Could you imagine how poverty would be eradicated in the blink of an eye? Or how war and conflict would be greatly diminished to maybe some civil unrest and some local conflict, but not anymore conflict between superpower, between nations, conflict that have eradicated millions of people in the past and threaten humankind again in the future. So the idea of bringing the same standard that we enjoy within nations at a global scale would mean incredible advancement for humankind. And the most beautiful part of this concept is that we don't need incredible technological discovery to do so. We don't need complete change of how humans function. It's really a political choice. And yes, identity is difficult to overcome, but identity can be built. Nations are born and recreated and changed quite often, actually. It's not like our nations have been there forever. I'm Italian, my country is 150 years old. There are many nations that are 50, 30 years old. And they still function. They function very well. So clearly, we can go beyond any cultural resistance, but what we need to really overcome is the political resistance that the system of nation bring about when trying to overcome these differences. And if we're able to do so, and if we're able to look beyond differences, we would have a completely different planet, as I said. So my great request for everyone following this live, and my hope in doing these lives and having, as I said, with Colombe and our volunteers, weekly topics, weekly exploration, is that by the time we arrive to 2025, and I'll tell you in a second why 25, but by the time we arrive to 2025, we're actually going to build a massive global consciousness and having people all over the planet believing in what we believe. I'm going to just do something about the title of the stream that is not to the point, but then we're going to jump straight into why we can come together and why we have a wonderful plan to make this happen. I'm going to just write the title of the Twitch, and I'm back with you both on Twitch and on YouTube. So I'm back with you. So what I was saying is the following. We have a plan, and it's a 3-year plan that obviously then is going to hopefully unleash much more energy, much more enthusiasm, much more long-term thinking that now we cannot even conceive. And it goes this way. So in 2023, alongside this live streaming that we are now doing and this broadcast, How to Build a Country, we're going to start consultation, global consultations, which means that we are not so arrogant to think that we can figure it out how a global platform can be built, but means that together we're going to understand the details of how a global governance should be built. Because clearly the current example like the United Nations are falling short. Clearly, even democratic countries are not doing well. Our democracy under strain. Technology have changed the way we behave and the way we interrelate with each other. So the current democratic system does not hold. So we need to innovate democracy. We need to involve more citizens. And also we need to understand how to bring together the most multicultural group of humans ever conceived. Because if we want to create a global platform, global nation, global country, it's not going to be with Western traits or with Chinese traits or with Australian traits, but it's going to be done by people of all different belief, values, religions, colors that you can imagine. So we need to find a way to come together, and the best way to design this system is to actually pull our brains, hundreds of thousands of brains together, and imagine the future. So the first year in 2023, we're going to do consultation. In 2024, instead, we're going to start both building the institution that we imagine, but most importantly, run a massive campaign in front of the United Nations, so the best global governance we have today, to propose this idea during the selection of the chief of the United Nations. So the United Nations every 5 years select a new leader, and we want to propose a leader that can back our vision, a vision of a democratic global governance. And we know that there is a high risk that this view, this vision, this candidate will be vetoed because the United Nations is not democratic. There are a few superpowers that decide everything, and many others that have no say, especially citizens like me or you have absolutely no say. So we need to build a campaign to push the United Nations to change, but probably we won't be successful. We will be vetoed and nothing will go ahead there. But then we'll actually have a full motive to try something new. Why? Because the United Nations will have refused the engagement of millions, hopefully, of citizens. And the next step is to say, okay, who says that a global institution has to be created by the current superpowers and not by citizens all over the planet that decide to come together and try something new? Who says that? No one. So we decide that this is the way forward. We decide that we can do this. We decide that we can build something that no one has ever built. Only through the power of our belief, only through the power of our energy, only with the enthusiasm that we can bring to a challenge like this one. And so in 2025, if everything works as we wish, we are going to actually launch this global institution. And whether this will be an experiment, the fully fledged institution, a platform, a treaty or a platform for countries to join forces, we cannot know now. It depends on the consultation. But I assure with all my heart and energy and optimism that we will build it. So that 3 years from now, we're going to be standing maybe in front of the same screen, thinking about, remember 3 years ago when we discussed that? Remember 3 years ago when we promised we would make it happen? Yes, now it happened. In 2025, we're going to be there. And from there onward, it's very difficult to imagine the future. It's very difficult to understand where we're going to be heading. But for sure, we're going to do our best to make this experiment, this dream, this platform of humans, the next big thing in human societies, the next big way for humans to cooperate, collaborate, and avoid doomsday, unleash incredible opportunities, and be one. Because this is what we want to do at the end of the day. We want to make sure that if not our generation, the next generation can grow up in a world where people do not feel singled out, attacked, discriminated because of the color of their skin, because what they believe into, because the accent they have, because where they were lucky or unlucky enough to grow up, and many other factors that today still completely can determine the life of anyone. And since nothing should determine your life but your willingness to try something, your passion, your energy, your hopes. Um, the there are many barriers that have been now tackled, like the fight against racism, the fight to curb inequalities, the fight against many injustices. But the fight about the fact that wherever you are born, it completely determines your future. No one has taken it on yet. And this is what we are doing here. We're taking on the biggest battles of our time. The battles that says that if you're a Canadian or a Gambian today, you're so likely to have a complete different standard of living because these countries are very different in terms of socioeconomic situation. So a Canadian is way more likely to be wealthy and well fed and well educated than someone that is born in a country with a very low GDP or very low social standards. And this is simply wrong. There should be no reason for people to be discriminating on their geographical locations. And often geographical location comes along with skin colors, religions, and other traits. They are still distributed unevenly across the planet. And this means that people are then singled out because of many other reasons. So it's very important that in our generation, by the time we are old and frail, we will have overcome this barrier, these differences. If we don't do it, the next generation might not have the time for it, might not have the time to solve these massive injustices because, for example, climate change might be too late to solve, or nuclear war might have happened, or technology might be have gone completely out of hand and be untamable, or all the worst nightmares that we can imagine could have happened because humankind did not manage to come together beyond differences that are honestly completely meaningless and bound forces and build something together. So this is the dream we have. Is now the dream of very few people, a few visionaries. I mean, if you think about it, there were big names in history that dreamed that. Albert Einstein, Gandhi, and a few others were all federalists, meaning they all believed the best way for humankind to evolve and coexist was the one of creating a common global structure. But today there are not many people thinking that. Today is the age of nationalism, is the age of populism, is the age of Trump, Modi, Xi Jinping. But even on the progressive side, Biden, I can't even think about many progressive leaders, Scholz in Germany, and so on. Yeah, they might think the cooperation is good, but they still think that their nation must come first and that they must win election with their electorate. And who cares if other nations are not doing as well? They have their priorities and so on and so forth. Until this doesn't change, we will not solve our problems. We will not feel better society. We'll keep on seeing shitty news after shitty news in every newspaper. So if you care about the future, if you care about trying to build a better society, trying to fix certain issues, and maybe you have already tried, maybe you have already campaigned a lot, maybe you have already invested so much energy in certain battles, but you see that once we take down a barrier, another one is raised. Once we create opportunities, these are taken away by someone else. Maybe you want to give it a shot and try with us to change the system as a whole, and try with us to create a system where wherever you are, whoever you are, you have access, for example, to universal basic income, because we have a global governance that taxes multinational, there is a lot of money, and that allows every single human on this planet to have access to basic goods. Forward-looking, a dream, so if you ask me, is the bare minimum. It's something that I would have done 100 years ago if I had the power. And I don't understand why no one is advocating for that. How do we accept the kids that are born in, for example, developing countries have to are forced to work in very early on in the age, or are condemned to poverty. And I'm saying that sitting in London in a very comfortable situation, and I look around me, I'm like, how come there's so much wealth here when the same wealth is distributed could guarantee a decent standard of living to many, many more people, and honestly, really don't change a lot my life or the one of people around me. And even if it did, probably would be the right thing to do. But to be honest, the fact that there are Victorian houses or monuments or gold all over the city in London or in other metropolis, why do we do that when this could actually save lives? Why do we accept that, for example, churches have so much wealth when there are people dying of hunger? So all of these are things that we need to challenge. We need to change the way we see the planet. We need to think well about what we are choosing over people's lives. Because if we manage to make this shift, if we manage to convince enough people this is not the right way to think, we might unleash changes that are uh, biblical in terms of size. They can really, really see the planet change her face, and maybe 100 years, 50 years, 30 years, have a completely different humankind from what we are used to. With obviously always some drama, some tragedies, some difficulties. Humans are not perfect. Is the beauty and the beast in every human. But I think we can do way better. Exactly as now probably are doing way better than 500 years ago in many aspects. We should try to do way better in 20, 30, 50 years. And I really, truly think that the idea we are proposing, the policy, the vision we have of uniting humankind is the best hope we have to move forward as society. So, having said that, let me drink a glass of water before entering the end of this live with the last few minutes. So I'm live since 50 minutes on Twitch and 40 minutes on YouTube. So it's a decent live, but it's definitely not enough. Why? Because I want to deliver once more the most important message of today. It is the one that we must come together to overcome all our differences. We must unite to unleash a utopic world, to see heaven on this planet, to ensure that people are not dying of hunger anymore, to ensure that inflation can be tamed, to ensure that even in our nations, people are not suffering, to ensure that wars are stopped, to finally find a solution to climate change. And to do all of this, there is a simple solution. It's called system change, and it's called uniting humanity in a democratic way, in a common global governance that can actually take responsibility, legitimacy, and be accountable to the people and solve all these massive issues. And as I said at the beginning of this live, we started this conversation, this project, this vision by understanding the history of nations. Why? Because nations, as we know them today, nation states, came about somehow, and there was no miracle, no supernatural power that created them, but humans like you and I that came together and decided, okay, we should build a bigger conglomerate of humans to deal better with things. And this was done 500, 800, 300 years ago. It worked for a certain while with terrible consequences of, like, for example, putting millions of people against each other in horrible crimes, the world wars, and so on. But still, it brought a lot of advancement and positive stuff. But today, this is not fit for purpose anymore. Today, we need to go beyond. Today, we have the technology, the mindset, and the tools to unite, to look beyond borders, to be one, regardless of the color of our skin, the belief that we have, the where we were raised. And not only we have the tools and the ability to do so, but we also have very important reason to do so. Climate change, nuclear war, technological development, space exploration, inequality. These are all topics that if we're able to pull together our common resources and brains and hearts and supporting each other, we will really, really, really impact those topics and really change the way we see the planet. So what I'm asking to all of you that are following this live and will see it in the next hours or days is, if you can please think about the fact that nation states are an invented construct. And as an invention, we can reinvent them better. We can rethink them. We can build our own global country or federation to unite as human and unleash tremendous opportunities and tame horrible scenarios by only uniting, by only understanding that the fact that I'm Italian and you are Canadian and you are Japanese and you are Argentinian does not matter beyond the fact that we have different cultures and food and languages which are very beautiful, but should not impact the way we deal with climate change, or we cooperate with each other, or we understand that if I'm wealthy and well fed, there is no reason why you are not wealthy and well fed as well, and we don't share resources together. Until we don't get to this point, we are doomed. So what we are doing here, we're trying to build a platform, a country, a federation that can bring us all together. And as I said during this live, I promise with all my heart, and I'm sure that my co-founder would do the same, and I'm sure that all the Atlas volunteers would say the same. I promise with all my heart that in the next 3 years, we're going to see this idea, we're going to make it happen, we're going to create it. And moving forward, we're going to build it together, because it's not the task of the next generation. It's not a sci-fi idea that should happen in 200 years, but it's actually an idea that can be created today, right now, with the political will, with the resources, with the technology that we have. So if we don't make it happen, if we don't make this happen in the next few decades, it's only our fault. There's no one else that will be responsible of the loss of lives, of the loss of ecosystem, of the loss of opportunities, that the fact that we are completely separated in many, many stupid enclaves is responsible for. So I really, really hope that you following this live understand and can join us in this incredibly perilous but exciting path. And then many years from now, we're going to be here again on Twitch, on YouTube, or whatever platform will be then, maybe in the metaverse, discussing how far we have gone and how much we have changed the world and society. And obviously, we cannot do it alone. I'm speaking 55 minutes and I'm tired. I really need support. We all need support. So if you are interested in what you're doing, if you are excited by the prospect of a big institution building effort, a big country creation dream, and if you have a bit of time to spare, a bit of passion to spare, a bit of resources to pull together, please contact us. We have put here in the description of the live an email to reach to us. There's a website. You can text us here. You can do anything to reach out. We're going to get your message and bring it home. And I think that together we can really do something big. And when I mean together, we don't need millions of people now. We need hundreds of passionate volunteers across the planet starting this conversation and allowing our vision to become the one of many more culture, many more people, many more amazing humans across the planet. And if we do that, if this is possible, if this is done, if by pulling resources together, we create the seed that we need, we are going to be 50%, halfway through the creation of a utopia on this planet, a place where no one will die of hunger, a place where there will be no wars, a place where climate change will be a long forgotten fact or something kids will study in the history books. So I really, really hope that this message can come across. I know we're going to push way more, and I know it's not easy at the beginning because many people still think about nation. They're discussing the US election, they're discussing COP27, and it's good and fine. Like we cannot forget about many other battles. But this one can be the mother of all battles. If we hack this one, if we crack this one, if we manage to win this one, I can guarantee you that 99% of all the issues that we experience today as humanity, as humankind, will be solved. There will be no more hunger, no more war, as I said before. Inequality will be greatly tamed, even if in the global governance will be highly capitalistic, which is something I don't wish, but I'm sure that even in a highly capitalistic society, solidarity across citizens of the same federation, country, nation will be way stronger as it is today already than for people feeling part of different enclaves, different communities, different groups. So yes, the world will never be perfect. Humans are not perfect, are not meant to be perfect. We are imperfect. We do mistakes. We learn. And I think that's something we have learned in the last 70 years is that together we are stronger. If we manage to look beyond differences, we do amazing things. We go to space. We find solutions to diseases. We curb immensely poverty. So it's incredibly important that we go this extra mile, that we try once more, that we dedicate our lifetime to building a common platform where skin color, religion, language, passport do not matter. And the only thing that matters is your values, your enthusiasm, your willingness to share, to build, to put yourself on the line, to support each other. This is the dream that I have. This is the dream that many of us have in Atlas. I hope is the dream that you can have as well. I'm going to now close this live. I hope the message came across. We're going to broadcast also tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time. There is, if I'm not mistaken, 12 p.m. Eastern, so New York time, and probably around 9 to 10 p.m. India time, for example, daily. So it's around this time zone, but I think that Twitch will remind you if you're here, and on YouTube you can see the time of this broadcast. Please send us questions, please send us ideas. Tomorrow we're going to do a second leg on the history of nations, and Wednesday as well. And then on Thursday, we're going to publish our weekly show. Thank you so much for this time. It's been a pleasure. Sorry for the long monologue, but I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much.